Hello, my name is Kevin Mark, and I'll be doing SEC 201 Lab 1 for you guys. Your respective instructors is going to give you an introduction. They're going to talk to you or communicate with you how he or she wants to give you the data, or how he or she wants to give you discussion, what terms to put in the, what to address. But I'm just going to show you the methodology for the lab, the procedures, and then I'm going to also show on the whiteboard later what data we obtained. So I've done this experiment earlier today, so I have all the data here, but I'm just going to show you step by step how I obtained this data. So in front of you, you're going to need your lab manual, starting on page 18, significant figures and measurements. If we look at part A, density of water, we see here obtain a clean, dry 50 milliliter graduated cylinder and weigh it. So I'll do that for you. You know how to use the analytical balance from last week in our introductory lab session. And here it reads 20.777 grams. You don't have to write this down now because I've already done this for you, and it will show this data later. So I measured the empty graduated cylinder. Let me just bring it up closer. This is our 50 milliliter graduated cylinder. We're going to add, as it says here in step 2, up to 9 mils. As you know, when you take a measurement, you should always read to the meniscus. So I've added up to 9 mils, and I'm going to use a dropper with some water. I'm going to add so that it reaches 10 mils. So I should be at eye level. Then I'm going to put it back onto the scale. So I'm going to get the mass of water plus the graduated cylinder, and there I obtained a mass of 31.314 grams. The next step is to step 4. I'm going to measure it up to 30 mils. Again, going up to 29. And then using our dropper to get it up to 30. So we have your 30 mils of water. And this gives us a mass of 50.837 grams. We go to step number 5. Similarly, add water to the 50 milliliter mark. So I'm going to do this again. Reading at eye level, the meniscus. And here we get a reading of 70.522 grams. So that is part A of our experiment. I'm going to do part B now. Part B is called accuracy and precision of volumetric devices. So I believe the first step, it says to pour about 100 mils of water into a 150 milliliter beaker to measure the temperature. So here I've gotten a thermometer from our drawers. I'm going to measure the temperature. Whenever you measure the temperature, your probe should not touch the glass. That will affect the water temperature. So it's been sitting here for a bit. I'm going to read the temperature here, again at eye level. And it reads 22.5 degrees Celsius. So 22.5 degrees Celsius is our temperature. The next step is obtain a clean, dry 50 milliliter beaker. Clean, dry 50 milliliter beaker. I'm going to weigh that out, empty. And that gave us a mass of 30.468 grams. Next, we're going to use the graduated cylinder to measure 10 mils. So this time, I have a 25 milliliter graduated cylinder as opposed to 50 mils in part A. This is a 25 mils for part B. And I'm going to measure 10 mils. The same technique I used in part A. I'm going to go up to 9 mils. And then use the dropper to get it up to 10 mils. I'm going to collect its mass. So the cylinder plus 10 mils of water, I got a mass of, I was supposed to put this in the beaker. So we pour it in the beaker, pour it into the 50 milliliter beaker, and we get a mass of 40.384 grams. The next step, step number 6, says to repeat this experiment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour out our water. I'm going to dry out our container. And I'm going to repeat this measurement, meaning I'm going to measure 10 mils of water in our graduated cylinder, pour it into our beaker, measure the mass to repeat the experiment to get 3 values in triplets. So we want to compare measuring 10 mils in the graduated cylinder to measuring 10 mils with the with the pipette. So here we have a pipette. We have markings up to 0. This is our 10 milliliter pipette. So we're going to measure 10 mils. The technique I like to use is to go above the 10 mil mark and then to let it drop until I get it to the 10 mil mark and then add it to our container of interest. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to measure. I'm going to suck up 10 mils, go above the 10 mil mark. I cover it. I go down to the 10 mils. And then I empty the amount of interest into our beaker. The same beaker that we just used, so we know the mass of the empty. And this mass reads 40.384. Okay, so we're going to repeat this experiment. It says to repeat in steps 7, to repeat steps 2 to 6, meaning I would empty it, dry, and then use the pipette again to get measurements in triplicate. So that is part B. So now we're just going to head over to the board